When we started making films about musicians, what we did grew out of the British documentary tradition. But there was always a tension of sorts between the things with which documentaries are generally concerned and with the pure music. In fact, immediately before we made our first film, I was told officially by the BBC that it was not possible to combine documentary and performance in a way that would do justice to both. That idea had not come from nowhere, of course. Music and documentary are two very different disciplines, with different imperatives, different tempi, different constructional needs, and different objectives. So it's not so easy to marry them. But everything changes in this world, and what had not been possible before suddenly became gloriously possible because of new circumstances. Television was new and full of hope. New silent cameras were invented that made a new kind of film possible, and a new generation of musicians came along with superabundant talent and a different attitude to the world from that of their predecessors. And that new attitude had much to do with the existence of television itself. Our first 4 films all contained both music and documentary, and in roughly equal proportions. The first included the whole of Mozart's Concerto for 2 pianos, played by Vladimir Ashkenazy and Daniel Barenboim with the English Chamber Orchestra. The third contained the whole of the Elgar Cello Concerto, with Jacqueline Dupre and the Philharmonia Orchestra, conducted by Daniel Barenboim. And the fourth contained the whole of Schubert's Trout Quintet. In making those first films, we discovered 2 things that have affected everything that we have done from that day to this. The first was the discovery that film remembers the artistic personality in a way that not one of the other media is quite able to match. The others may be able to do more for the art itself, books, radio, audio recordings, and of course concerts. But when it comes to getting to know our artists and remembering them, especially after they've left us, film does something more personal, more intimate, more revealing, in some ways more memorable. The second thing that we discovered was that if the music is well integrated into the film, it has more power than the documentary elements. And so slowly, the center of gravity in our films shifted away from the facts and figures and dates and places of documentary towards what music and poetry try to do and what they have to offer to people, so that our latest films are really not documentary films at all. The film on this DVD, which is called We Want the Light, is the furthest that we have so far gone in this direction. But that came as a surprise, even to us, because out of the more than 70 television productions that we've made since we started, this is the one that is most directly concerned with the fate of human beings. And so we expected it to become the most documentary. But that's not how it turned out. One should never anticipate how a film of this kind will develop. And the reason why everything changed is that the film, as it grew, became less concerned with the externals of human existence and more concerned with what our circumstances mean to us internally. More than anything else, the film came to be about what music can mean to people, even in the direst of circumstances, or particularly in the direst of circumstances. It's a film about many things. It's about freedom and captivity, about emancipation, acculturation and assimilation. It's about Moses and Felix Mendelssohn. It's about Richard Wagner and his influence on the thinking of the Third Reich in Germany. And it's about the extraordinary place of music in the Nazi concentration camps. It ends with some telling testimonies from 3 concentration camp survivors, including Alice Sommer-Herz, who was born in Prague, who played more than 100 concerts in the Theresienstadt concentration camp, and who is convinced that it was music that kept her and many others alive in those unimaginable circumstances. Alice Sommer was 98 when we filmed her. Today, she's 5 months past her 100th birthday, and she still practices the piano for 2.5 hours every day. These are the things which made her the central figure in our film. She's been a profound source of inspiration to many people, and I hope that when you get to know her in this film, she will be an inspiration to you as well. The DVD is in 3 parts. The first is the 1-hour television film called We Want the Light. The title is taken from a poem by a 12-year-old girl, Eva Pikova, written in the same Theresienstadt concentration camp, where Alice Sommer played her 100 and more concerts. The film ends with a statement by Alice Sommer about what music has meant to her through her 100 years and her extraordinary range of experiences. It's a statement that cries out for music. And so the DVD then continues with nearly all of the music from the film, but not as background music, as most of it is in the film itself, but in vision, shot and edited so as to make it a reflection and a remembrance of the themes which have been touched on in the film, but this time without any words. In the third section, since the subject is so vast, there are 4 hours of interviews, both with the contributors who appear in the film, but going more deeply into the subject than can be done in 1 hour, and also with several others who do not appear in the film, including Zubin Mehta, Itzhak Perlman, his wife Toby Perlman, and Yevgeny Kissin. The third section starts with Yevgeny Kissin playing the slow movement of Brahms's F minor piano sonata, and with him giving his personal thoughts about why music, the most abstract of all the arts, seems, paradoxically, to be the one that goes most directly into people's hearts. He also recites a poem in Yiddish by Yankev Gladstein called simply Mozart, which neatly encapsulates one of the themes of our films. The interviews, there are 18 of them in all, end with Alice Sommer reflecting on what she has learned in her 100 years. And again, the character of her closing words calls for music. And so the DVD ends with Yevgeny Kissin playing the same early Brahms piece, but with no poem and no words. Because, as Vladimir Ashkenazy says in his interview, music takes over where words leave off. And to my ears at least, Yevgeny Kissin plays this inspired piece by the young Brahms more beautifully than anything that one could begin to imagine from just reading the music off the page. That is one of the magics of music, and that is why it can mean so much to so many people.